Hello, fellow Summoners War players. Welcome back to the channel. And I just got to start off right away with something I just got to share. I woke up this morning and I felt off. I was like, what's going on? I couldn't quite figure it out. I had this desire for something and I just couldn't put my finger on it. Then I realized that I felt a need. But I wasn't sure what that need was.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
That's it. That's exactly it. The need for speed. In Summoner's War, progression is sometimes fast, but sometimes you get bogged down. In this episode, we are going to talk, I am going to talk about 10 different tips that can help keep your progress going fast. So let's get started. Welcome to episode 2 of the Chasing Speed series. It's a series where not only do we pursue the fastest runes possible and talk about different ways to make your monsters speedier, we also talk about progress in the game. What is your speed in the game? So in this episode, we're going to cover my top 10 early game speed tips. Number 10 is hoard your crystals and use them as sparingly as possible. You can see I'm at 2,469, and I really start looking at what am I using my crystals on when I drop below 2,000. The game gives you a lot of crystals. Make sure you're always doing your dailies. Another great source of crystals is the mock battles, the battle training ground. If you look at this, every single level of this mock battle gives you 50 crystals if you do it 3 stars. So definitely need to do this, and there are online guides on how to do it if you don't want to figure it out yourself. Doesn't take any energy. It just takes a little bit of time, and you get over 1,500 crystals out of it. Tip number 9 is that Come to Us is a gacha game, and it's not that Come to Us is evil. They have built their game to make money. And one of the ways they do that is they tempt you to use your crystals. So the absolute best use for crystals is energy refreshes so that you can be constantly farming in the game. Come to Us is going to try to give you all kinds of opportunities to use crystals. And one of the most insidious ones is the Premium Pack 1 and the Premium Pack 2. So these are designed to get you to spend your crystals to get summons, because a lot of people treat this game as a collection game and they always want to do more summons. If you spend your crystals on this, you're going to find yourself just running out of crystals at some point, and then you can't farm anymore and your progression grinds to a halt. You lose interest and eventually you go away. We love our Here Gang members and we'd love for everybody to stay. So use your crystals sparingly. The next thing to do is to look at your Summoner's Way and to see what are you working on. I've already gotten to Advanced. I'm at Clear Trial of Ascension 100. I'm stuck on TOA 88. I've got to get better rune quality and another monster 6-star before I can do that. So then I'm looking at other things: Necropolis, Steel Fortress, Punisher's Crypt, Clear B5. That's probably my next task I will take care of. But always be checking your Summoner's Way. Summoner's Way gives you a lot of rewards, and a lot of them are really good, including a lot of crystals. So what fusions are really good for early game? Sig is a very nice unit. He even got a buff recently, which is pretty good. And he can help for progression in GB10, DB10. But he is a bit squishy, which makes him more difficult to use in GB12 and DB12. So I actually skipped on Sig. Katarina is only a PvP monster, so I skipped her. I did fuse Vero, but I'm wondering if he's really the first one you should do. And one thing to keep in mind is that in Summoner's Way, they give you 3 of the 4 monsters you need for any fusion of your choice. So try to figure out which ones you want to do. I did fuse Fire Panda. I plan on using him in Rifts and Rift Beasts and possibly Necro. And I also like him for PvP. So I know I'm going to use him. I fused him to take advantage of the blessing. Same thing with Jean. I don't have her fused yet, but I have all the pieces for her made. I did fuse Bale because I know I'll eventually run BJR5. And I'm in the process of fusing Riley. Again, I'm waiting on essences so I could fully fuse the last 4-star for her. So that's what I did with the Nat 5s. Nine-tailed Fox is a strong damage dealer, but primarily for giants, which I don't need her anymore for that. These are just Lucian skill ups. And by the way, the difference between a 5-star fusion and a 4-star fusion is gigantic. 5-star fusion takes real dedication and time and effort to do. A 4-star fusion, if you already have the 4 pieces needed, even if they're just 3-star and 2-star and unawakened, you can fuse a 4-star fusion monster in a couple of hours of effort. So they are worth it. Susano is a pretty good speed lead for early PvP. So I actually have fused one of these. Beretta used to be, a big recommendation for TOA and TOA hard, but he has dropped off, especially with Jean doing so well. I don't think I plan on fusing a Beretta. Keen, no. Wind Vampire can do some damage, but I've skipped him. I skipped the Succubus. Horus is good to fuse for skill ups. And I used to highly recommend the Wind Kung Fu Girl for Steel Fortress 10. But if you're building the Dots team, she's not needed. Harmonia is good for PvP and for skill ups for Triana, but she's not needed early game. Water Samurai, not really. Verd is outstanding, so I would fuse as many of those as you can to get him skilled up for Trikaru. Wind Magic Knight, there's really not much use for her early game. Now, you could maybe fuse skill ups for a star to make her hit harder if you're going to use her for a star version of Trikaru in Necro. Melia is great. I would fuse her, and at some point I will also fuse some skill ups to increase their damage to make my GB12 runs safer and faster. And then Emma is an outstanding monster for Labyrinth and PvP. She's great, and I plan on fusing many of her. So you can see, this is just my opinion, but these are the fusions that there are plenty to do. And if you're not getting good luck with summoning, spend a little time on making those fusions for monsters that you're definitely going to be using. Tip number 6 is 2A farming. 2A monsters are very strong. There's a lot of really good ones for early game. In my opinion, that if you're doing the Dots team, then you need to get Sath 2A'd right away, and you need to get Tattoo 2A'd right away. So those are almost the first two. You could potentially do Spectra first, so that Spectra can help you in other content and also help you with 2A farming. But those would be the first 3 I would recommend. And then almost everybody does Crow and Rauk. So I'm working on Crow right here. I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, you got to get to doing level 5 of your 2A dungeons," and that is a goal. But is that an early game goal? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what monsters you're summoning, what kind of rune luck you're getting. You can see right here I'm farming level 4. I have actually cleared level 5 one time, but I mostly get wrecked on level 5. So then the question becomes, is it worth my time to use energy, to use crystals, to use mana to level up runes, level up monsters, just so I can do level 5? And that actually kind of leads me into tip number 5. One of the things you need to consider, if you get super lucky in pulling a Nat 5, is that Nat 5 really going to be helpful for you in early game? So you can see I pulled a couple of Nat 5s, Savannah and Chung Pung, who both are amazing for TOA hard. So I did decide it was worth my time to invest in those two. Varad is also good for TOA hard, as well as early giants and dragons. Varad is used almost everywhere. So those three Nat 5s were worth investing in. Now, I don't have a lot of Devilmons, and they've all gone into Savannah. Everyone else doesn't have them yet. So you do need to think about how much time and resources it takes to take Nat 5s to where they're really useful. In the very early game, think about who you can skill up to get them to be the most useful monster possible, and those are usually Nat 3s and Nat 4s. So another tip for you is to give some thought to what level of essence farming do you want to be doing early game. You can see here, Water B10 is often one of the harder B10 dungeons early game. If you don't have the DOTS team built, I distinctly remember I was doing 3 or 4 minute runs as I was struggling early game. But this is one of the other reasons that the DOTS team is pretty outstanding, is that not only does it help you with GB12 pretty early on and Steel Fortress 10, the DOTS team is actually pretty good at taking down Water B10 as well. And so this is one of those dungeons that it might be worth my while to be farming it at the B10 level. So another thing to think about, especially if you're running an XP boost already, and I'm in Amelia's Blessing, so I have an XP boost going, is that if you only need a little bit of essences left to awaken some monsters, one of the things you can do is you can farm the Hall of Magic using your scenario farmer to level up some mons while you're also getting some magic, and maybe you'll get that last wind mid that you need. I generally look for either 2 stars or some other monsters that are close to being near their top level, and those are the ones I'll take into. They don't need a lot of experience, but I don't really want to be doing an experience run just for a little bit of experience. It's inefficient. And so Kaki is really good for clearing Magic B6 on his own. He doesn't need any help. And he doesn't have great runes. And it was 22 seconds. And you can see my best run is 12 seconds. And so one of the things to consider when you're farming XP and essences is how much time does it take per run and how many drops are you getting. So the reason I like doing this is you're not wasting experience by bringing in 5 monsters that are already fully leveled up. You're getting no experience from that. You can do this and get experience for 4 monsters while your farmer is handling the actual job of defeating the dungeon. And then tip number 3 is that once you get a GB12 team that is solid, unless you have something else you need to be doing with your auto battle, anytime you're on the game, you should be farming Giants B12 early on. You're looking to get better rune quality, and you're looking to get mana to power up the runes that you need. Tip number 2 is really spending time investing in your scenario farmer so that you can level up monsters quickly. So here we are in Fame on Hell, and we've got Lapis, and she is the farmer that the game gives you at the very beginning. And now I've actually put her onto a Despair Revenge set, and it's not a very good Despair Revenge set. You see her crit rate low, crit damage is low, accuracy is not as high as it should be. And actually, so the Vampire Revenge set that you're given from clearing one of the scenarios is a decent set for Lapis at the very beginning. But long term, she's actually better as a farmer on Despair Revenge. And one thing I did for Lapis is I did put her on a speed slot 2 because her base speed is really low, and you want her to be moving faster than some or all of the waves in Phaemon, so that she gets to move first and kill off and stun some of those monsters, so it's an easier and quicker run. But I did not invest in Lapis as my farmer. I only use her occasionally in other places. I think Kaki is the better early game farmer than Lapis. So if you can choose Kaki from the 4-star event and then use him as your farmer, he's a bit easier to rune up than Lapis is. You could stick Kaki or Lapis on the Vampire Revenge set that you get from Scenario, but that's not really the best set, especially for Kaki. He really wants to be on attack, 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 and then you try to max skill his skill 2 so that he uses his skill 2 as much as possible, and it makes for really fast runs. My Lapis on a decent Despair set is around 45 to 60 seconds per run. My Kaki averages probably around 30 seconds per run, so you're doing twice as many runs in the same amount of time, so it makes your experience farming a lot faster. And another benefit of Kaki is that once he's on a little bit better runes, he can experience farm almost any scenario in the game. So as you go further up the scenarios, you get more experience. So this is Phaemon. Kaki can easily handle Aiden Forest, and he can do it in a pretty quick time, especially if his AI is good in a run. Then you're looking at 20 to 30 second runs with Kaki and Aiden Forest, where Lapis really struggles in Aiden Forest with all the wind monsters that tend to show up. And the last tip for this episode, number 1, is farm arena and build your towers. Now, I got pretty lucky early on. I pulled Frigate, who's outstanding for arena offense. Fran is a mediocre speed lead, but she's good enough, and she gives an attack boost. And then I'm using Savannah for her AoE defense break, which of course she didn't use. The idea with this team is that Frigate will go first, boost everyone's attack bar, and then Fran will go and she will boost everyone's attack bar, give immunity. Savannah will do her AoE defense break, and then Kaki will just kill everything. You're not interested in spending a lot of time and resources in building an arena defense early. You don't need that. Arena defenses are hard to build, and when you're early game, you're not going to have the towers or the runes to have a good defense anyway. So put up a trash defense so that other people with trash defenses will hit yours, and you just start farming. So that next time I come back, I go look at my history, and I've got 10 people with weak defenses that have hit me. I can quickly empty my wings and get back to something else that's more important. Arena wings are just a grind. Com2uS has been slowly making doing arena wings easier. They've been adding in some nice quality of life things, but it is still a grind to get your towers done. It takes forever. And then another thing to think about, especially when it's getting late at night, you've been farming all day, you're tired, it's time for you to go to sleep and give up this addiction for a few hours. You have a few wings left. I only have 3 wings left. Just go to Amir. He's a rival that they just added recently that you can farm anytime you want. And when you just need to empty your wings before you're going to sleep, now you're getting less arena points, so this is not the most efficient thing to do. But if you know that you're about to fall asleep and you're still farming, I'm sure none of you do that. But you're about to fall asleep, you're still farming, and you've got some wings, and all your history is done. You've done all your rivals, and all your matchups are done. You don't really want to use crystals to refresh your arena wings, except during arena rush. So you can just hit a mirror with your last few wings. Your wings are 0. You can go to sleep, and when you wake up, you'll be back to 10 wings again. So we got up to 154. I still need to buy my Devilmon for the week, but it's still early in the week. And I've been waiting for this for a little while. One of the things that's really key early game is to be doing your arena wings and then upgrading your buildings. And the first building I always max is your Sanctum of Energy, because it gives you an extra 20 energy. So we now have that maxed, and you can now see I'm at 200 energy. So anytime I'm away from the game, I let my energy build up to the maximum level possible. And I'm still missing one of the 4 buildings that you can get to give you an additional 10 energy. So the max you can get in the game, at least right now, is 210 energy. So if I build one more building, then I will be good to go at 210. And then we get into the debate of what arena towers you should be building. Clearly, in this game, speed is king. Speed is what you need, especially if you're chasing speed like I am. My Sky Tribe Totem is currently level 6, which gives me a 5% speed boost. The max is 20%, so I still have a ways to go. But you can see, as you move up, the Sky Tribe Totem gets very expensive to upgrade. And so there's 2 schools of thought on this. And the first one is, go for your Sky Tribe Totem right away and make it level 20. That's the only tower you should do until you get to level 20. And I debated for this series if that's what I should do. But I decided to go with the second train of thought, which is I want to be progressing as quickly as possible. Speed is definitely the priority, but what else can I do to be more efficient playing the game, trying to stay as free to play as possible? And so what I did was I maxed my Sanctum of Energy first. So I always have as much energy as possible to avoid having to use my crystals. Then I started looking at, and my Sky Tribe Totem was the first thing I made to level 3. And then I went back through and I started looking at the other towers. The other towers that are really kind of important are your crit damage tower, your attack percent tower. HP and defense are both important, but not as much as those other 2. And then you've got your elemental towers, and all of those are important. But generally the way the second school of thought is that you should kind of level up towers more or less evenly so that you're getting all those stats across all your monsters, with the elemental towers obviously being the least important because those only affect one element. So that's it for this episode. I hope you find these tips helpful. Please leave a comment below if you find these top 10 lists useful. I can create more of them further on in the series. As always, please like and subscribe so I can build up the channel and get more content out to you. See ya.